Hello and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good people of the tube. Hope what's everything grand. And also, you want hello there, everybody. Welcome to another A&Q Wednesday. Got it right again. I always get it wrong. I always say Q&A, but it's not Q&A. For some reason, it gets demonetized if it's Q&A. Who owns the copyright to that? Who knows? Anyway, moving along. So, yes, welcome to A&Q Wednesday, everybody. Let's get to question one today, shall we? Yes, we shall. Okay, so question one is, I'm struggling with playing the Under a Bridge intro, specifically the D major chord. Do you have any advice on how to practice that? It's just a case of doing it over and over again. There is nothing more you can do. I can't play it, unfortunately, but you just got to keep doing it and 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 doing it. It's like anything. When you're Practice is everything. Playing is everything. If you can't do something straight away, or you can't do something in a month, then you will be able to one day, but you just got to keep at it. It's you know, the guitar isn't something that yields quick results, ever. You know, you can't just pick it up one day and be kind of like, you know, a whiz kid on it. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of time to be able to do certain things. And what's easy for one person will be ridiculously hard for another person, if that makes any sense. So this chord, it will be really easy for someone to be able to get that kind of picking pattern, and then for you it'll be really hard. But the more you do it, the more you'll learn, the more your hand learns, the more the muscle memory kicks in, and the more you're kind of like, you know, not trying to, you know. And I always say to people as well is, the moment you get angry, when you're trying to learn something, if you get angry and frustrated at not being able to do it, is the moment you need to stop. Because the moment your brain gets angry at not being able to do something, you're not gonna learn. You're not gonna take it in at that point. It's just gonna bounce off you. You know, so you just gotta keep doing it. You know, that chord is a pig, yeah. Also, don't forget that a lot of the Under a Bridge intro isn't actually what John played. And isn't what he plays. There's a lot of people trying to get in these extra notes, like that one there. The what is it? The C sharp note. John doesn't play that. That's an overdub. There's a lot of overdubs, and also the diddly dum. You know, in the Under a Bridge intro, John doesn't do them live. You know what I mean? And this is the point. Like, I always think if John doesn't do it live, I'm not doing it. You know, and that was the way I've always thought about John. Was, you know, he's an improvisational guitarist, and he does certain things in the studio that he doesn't do live because either he doesn't want to, or it's just too much to kind of bother. So when I see people trying to do the Under a Bridge intro note for note perfect of a Bloodsucker Sex Magik intro, knowing that John didn't even do it, it seems a bit silly to me. It's like when you're learning like a live song and there's a mistake and you end up learning the mistake, if that makes any sense. Like, you know, just because it's there. There's a lot of times, if you watch John play live, there's a lot of times where you can really see him really kind of undecided, where you get a good example of this is the Scar Tissue solo at Reading in 2007. The last solo in Scar Tissue 2007, when he's doing these kind of those kind of runs up and down the neck. You can see he's kind of like trying to feel it out, but he's not 100% confident in what he's doing. Hence, it's kind of like here and there and everywhere, and also in the bedroom lick as well. You know, when people play the bedroom lick, there's that bit where he goes. That bit there. If you watch that bit really closely, John makes a mistake. He falls out of time because he's thinking about where to go next. You know, so it sounds a bit more like this. And it's really staggered. I mean, I don't exactly know what he does, but that's technically it's not a mistake, but it's a hesitation. So you don't really want to be learning that. It wants to, you know, if John could play it again, I'm sure he'd want it to flow more. So you go. like that, so it's got a flow, but it doesn't. It staggers around the place, and there's a few times that happens. I mean, you just listen to any guitarist. They all make these kind of like little flubs and here and there, and you don't want to be learning those things. Really, it's a bad thing. It's like, you don't want to learn mistakes. It seems a bit silly, but I don't know how I've got to this point. But anyway, I never do. But it's all about it's all about practice. But again, that's of course I remember now. But don't try and get it all in. I mean, I wish I could play it, but I can't play it because the copyright police are beyond me in 5 seconds flat. They're really nasty with me with Red Hot Chili Peppers stuff for some reason. If I resemble anything Chili Peppers is, they're going to jump on me. So anyway, but yeah, that chord, the D major chord, going to the F. It's just practice. And also, again, watch the live version of what John does. Those aren't in there. He doesn't do them. He doesn't do that. And also these extra notes, he doesn't do them. They're, the diddly dum he probably did do in the studio, but he never did it again. And the extra notes are all overdubs. And you can hear they're overdubs because they're louder than anything else. So it's like, they're definitely, and I'm pretty sure he said there were overdubs. But, so don't try and do the album version. Go for a live version. Listen to what he does live, apart from the Saturday Night Live version, which is insanely cool, but don't bother with that one. It's mental. But just listen to a live version of what John actually plays and go for that. But as for getting like the fingering right in the chord shape, that just takes time, and it's just muscle memory. The more you do it, the more your hand will learn, the more you will learn, and the easier you'll be able to get it. So eventually you just go to it. You know what I mean? I remember when I first in the first year of playing guitar, when I, Under the Bridge was the song that made me go, I need to know who this man is. Watching it live on this Top of a Pop special. But, I remember trying to do that. And that da-da-da-da-do, and the other run, it took me forever, and it just kind of came out like this. And it was terrible. And, but it just, you persevere. It took me a long time to be able to play Under a Bridge smoothly, especially the intro. And then, you get into the verse bit where those kind of things. It just takes time. But, you just got to... Everything about the guitar is perseverance. Like I say, it doesn't yield quick results. The guitar never will yield quick results unless you're really lucky. But, you've got to be very lucky to do that. What you put in, you get back out. You put the hours in, you get that back out. You don't put the hours in, you're not going to get anything out of it. It's as simple as that. So, you've got to earn it, is simply, you've really got to earn it. You've got to really sit there and grind away at it. The moment you get angry, you walk away, you forget it, because at that point you're not going to learn, and then you come back to it with a fresh mind. But, you've got to really work and try hard, and you've really got to dig deep. It's not something you can just kind of like pick up and do. It doesn't work that way. So so the Under the Bridge intro, that D major chord, I know it's difficult. Do not resort to using a capo. I've seen so many people go, capo on the second fret and it's just easier. Don't do that. Just persevere with this. If it means your thumb has to be behind the neck, go for that. Just, move your thumb, put your fingers in the position of that D major chord and move your thumb to find out where it's most comfortable. Because when you go to this F sharp major chord anyway, your thumb has to be behind the neck anyway, so you can do the next run. But this D major chord, I say, just just practice. That's all it is. You just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. There's no other quick way, because there is no quick way with a guitar. You know what I mean? There's no quick way of learning anything with a guitar. It all takes ages. It takes a long time, and it takes a lot of perseverance and techniques and style and kind of knowledge and stuff like that, and experience. They all take years to acquire. You know what I mean? Yes, you can be good. You can be a really good guitar player in about a year or 2-3 years, something like that. You can be an amazing guitar player, but you've still got such a long distance to go. I've been playing guitar for 18 years, and I'm not under any disillusion that I'm anywhere near, what's the word? Like, any good. Because I know I've got a long way to go. You know what I mean? I've got so much to learn yet about kind of feel and expression and all sorts of other things I can do with the guitar. And also certain like different things, like I'm starting to kind of like develop these ideas in my head of all these kind of strange little like I keep coming up with these little ideas for these kind of like little solo runs, like this. I got all these kind of strange little runs in my head that I'm trying to kind of understand how I'm going to fit them into my playing. And just try and get my head around trying to incorporate these little ideas that I've got into these little runs. I mean, you got flat 5 in there, which is really cool. So again, never be under the never be under the illusion like you've learned everything, basically. But again, like I said, it's so important to put everything you've got into the guitar, because like if you put everything into it, it will give it back. But if you don't do that, it won't, because that's the way it works. It's a very the guitar has to be, it's a two-way road relationship with the guitar. It can't just be kind of like I don't see why I should have to work so hard kind of thing. Why can't I do it now kind of thing? It doesn't work that way. It's a case of you're in it together, both of you are in it together, and this thing has to learn you, and you have to learn it, and then once you've learned each other, you can then, proceed to kind of like, continue down that line. But it's all down to practice and understanding each other, you know what I mean? You've got to have a deep understanding of your guitar. You've got to understand of like, how it sings, how it barks, how it screams, how it behaves in certain situations, and and then obviously you have to understand how you behave in certain situations and how that's going to affect the guitar. You know what I mean? For example, if like if you're angry at a gig and you'll start beating on the guitar more, you have to know that your guitar can take that. You know what I mean? You need to have total confidence in each other. And obviously all your gear, to be honest with you, it's a very mutual relationship. You've all got to be, you're all in it for you're all in it for the same reasons, should I say? So yeah, when it comes down to that D major chord, if you're having issues with it, just keep practicing it. It may not happen this month that you'll get it comfortable. It may not happen this year that you get it comfortable to play it, but it will happen. You just got to keep going and going and going and going and going like a Duracell battery. There's no quick routes. There's nothing I can say, if you put your fingers like this and the other, you'll be away. It doesn't work that way. And it'd be disingenuous for me to say anything like that, because I don't believe it, for one thing. And I don't believe it because it's not true. I don't like the idea of like, these kind of like, I can teach you how to do this and the other, and all you need to do is this and this. No, you don't, because everyone's different. Everyone learns in their own specific way and their own way, and you've got to find yours. And like I say, it's all about having a two-way, that kind of understanding of the guitar, and that kind of all heading in the same direction kind of thing, But I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know if that's a very good answer, but that's it's what I've got. But it's all down to practice. It really is all down to practice. You need to practice like a demon. The hours you put in, you will get back out. Not straight away, no, but you will get it back. You just got to keep at it and at it and at it and at it and at it. And that's the thing with the guitar, is it's so easy to not bother with it, because it does, like I say, because it doesn't yield quick results, because the guitar isn't immediate. People, I've known many people who's like, I can't be bothered. It's too much hard work. In that case, you shouldn't be ever playing the guitar. If you're like, it's too much hard work and I won't be able to do it, then yeah, step away from the guitar, because you won't be able to, because you're beaten before you start. It's like Miyamoto Musashi says in like, if you think you've when he talks about kind of going into a duel with somebody, it's like, if you think you've lost, you've lost. And that's the same way with guitar. The same way with anything, to be honest with you. If you admit defeat before you even do it, you're defeated. You know what I mean? If you think, oh, I'll never be able to do this, you'll never be able to do it. You know, but if you go, right, I can't do it at this point in time, but I'm going to keep going at it and going at it, and eventually I'll be able to do it. That's the mindset you need to have. It's a stronger mindset than just going, oh, it's too difficult. You know what I mean? Nothing worth anything in life is easy. Everything worth it is hard. If it's easy, you haven't earned it. You know what I mean? Well, that's not the right way of wording it, but I don't know if you know what I mean by that. Like if everything falls perfectly, you never really... Yeah, that's it. That's what I want to say. If everything falls perfectly and you just kind of like, you know, I can do this and that's another, then you've never really strived for it. You know, in which case, yeah, in a kind of way you haven't really earned it. You just can do it. But like, you know, in certain ways that's cool. You know, natural talent and all that kind of thing. But I think there's a lot more... merit, if you will, in putting the hours in and really, really pushing yourself. You know, not getting angry, just pushing yourself into situations where you're like, and certain things to go, wow, I never thought I'd be able to do that, but now I can. You know what I mean? And you've got to try, but don't ever admit defeat, because if you admit defeat before you even attempted it, then you are defeated, and it's pointless. You know, I mean, you don't know. Oh, I'll never be able to do this. Well, thinking like that, no, you won't. You know, there's so much thought process. Like, no, I know it sounds cliche to say, but the power of positive thinking is so important when it comes down to stuff like this. You know, so thinking like, you know, oh, I'll never be able to do this D major chord comfortably, like John Frusciante and this, that, and the other. If you think that way, then no, you won't. But if you go, right, I can't do it at this point in time, but I will be able to eventually one day, that's the way to do it. Because eventually, yeah, of course you will. You know, it just takes time and effort, and it takes many hours and many minutes and many seconds and a lot of frustration and a lot of walking away from a guitar because it isn't working right and all this kind of thing. But you do eventually get there. You know, you just got to keep your perseverance and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. Don't ever admit defeat with it, because this will not give up on you, so don't give up on it. You know, the guitar will never ever give up on you. It won't. It's not in its nature too. It's like it's like a dog. They don't give up. They're so loyal. You know, and guitars are loyal. You know, if you don't give up on it, it won't give up on you. And what you put into it, it will come back. And that's one of the most gorgeous things about the guitar is the fact of, like, you know, if it can rely on you, you can rely on it. You know, you've got to have that, you know, I suppose, I don't know if it's the word symbiotic, I don't know if that's the right word, but you've got that kind of that relationship where, you know, you are in it together for the right reasons. You're not in it to kind of like, you know, to pose with it or anything like that. You know, you're in it because, you know, you love it. You know what I mean? If that's the thing. And again, practice is the key to that. You know, you know, the more hours you put on this thing and into this thing, you know, the more able you are to get out of it, you know, and eventually this just becomes an extension of yourself, you know, and that's key. That's everything, you know, and then you can just focus on music, and then, you know, you don't have to worry about it, kind of like, you know, it's not a guitar at that point, it's you. So anyway, just practice, just keep going, you'll get there. I have no doubt you'll get there, trust me. I was the same with that D major chord. It was an absolute pig, but, you know, eventually you get there. It just takes time. You'll get there. Okay, so let's move on to question 2 now. Question 2 is, have you tried hot rail pickups, and could you describe what you thought of them? Yes, I have tried hot rail pickups. I really liked hot rails. I had no idea. My initial kind of like, if you will, first thing of hot rail pickups was I bought a Iron Maiden Live in Rock in Rio DVD, and saw Dave Murray and Yannick Gers had hot rails. More Dave Murray, because Yannick's I don't know if Yannick actually has the hot rails. I think there might be the I think either the Mini 59 or I don't know. I can't remember what they are. I'm pretty sure they're not hot rails in Yannick's guitar. But Dave has hot rails in his Strat, and I've always loved Dave Murray's guitar tone. You know what I mean? Actually, funny enough, that Rock in Rio DVD was the first time seeing Dave play live, and I was like, you know, immediately like, that's the guy from the text. I never really pursued. I never really knew who they were until that DVD, because I'd only been playing guitar 2004, so I'd been playing guitar 3 years by that time when I got that DVD. So I had learned kind of Prowler and Phantom of the Opera, and I'd learnt them, but I didn't know who they were. I didn't know who Dave Murray was at that point in time. I was just drawn to him without even knowing who he was. And then I obviously saw him play, and I was like, "That's him! I know that sound!" And obviously I saw he had hot rails, and I was like, "What are those pickups?" And no one I knew what they were. Like, I don't know, they're just like weird. They're weird. I was obsessed with like these pickups. And then I met this guy, and he told me, "Oh, they're Seymour Duncan hot rails." And I was like, "Ooh!" And he had them in his Strat. He had a Strat, and he had modded this Strat with these hot rails. And I remember trying them and really liking them. I don't remember exactly. I can't remember for the life of me what they were. Other than there were Seymour Duncans, but I think there's a couple of other. I think there's quite a few different kind of hot rail pickups. I don't know, but I remember they were really nice. But I'm not really a humbucker user. You know what I mean? I love single coil pickups, and I always have loved the sound of single coil pickups. And if I want a Les Paul, if I want a humbucker, I just use a Les Paul. But Dave Murray's sound with those hot rails, gets me a bit hot under the collar, I tell you. Especially that neck pickup, it's amazing. But yeah, I really liked them. I found their response was really nice and smooth. They had a really warm tone to them, and they were just really nice. I really liked hot rails. I have no desire to have them in a guitar, but maybe one day. But I have no desire at this point in time, because humbuckers just don't interest me as much as single coils, and P90s don't either, or any other pickup. So, you know, I am obsessed with single coils. I just love them. You know, I mean, I really do. And there's just something in the sound. You know, again, it's the sound of my heroes. You know, Jimi Hendrix and John Frusciante. You know, and it's Mike McCready, and they all had these single coil sounds, and they're the sounds that I always wanted. You know, and I've always found my favourite humbuckers are the ones that sound almost single coily, but not quite. But like the Revelation here, the RTL, these are my favourite humbuckers of all time in this guitar. These are my favourite humbuckers. The Entwistle, I forget what they are. RV59s? I can't remember what they are. But these here, they're my favourite humbuckers of all time, I've heard. Even above Gibson burst buckers, and also some other humbuckers I've tried. Apart from, actually, there was a Gibson. Still don't beat this, because these humbuckers here are how I want a Les Paul to sound. They've just got kind of like a bite, but they've got the warmth and the fatness of a humbucker, but they've still got, they're really bright still. Yeah, but they're almost single coil, but not quite, and that's what I love about them so much. The Lemon Drop doesn't have it. The Lemon Drop's a little bit darker than this. I thought they were, for the longest time, my favourite. And then the RTL came along, and I was like, nope, there they are. But there was a Gibson Les Paul in Old Hat. Traditional. Gibson Les Paul Traditional. What's traditional? I can't remember. I did demo it. It's a Cherry Burst Les Paul. And that guitar was amazing. I don't remember what the humbuckers were in that. I'm pretty sure they were stock. So would that make them burst buckers? People with a tube, let me know. I'm pretty sure it was a Les Paul Traditional, but I can't remember if it was a traditional now. Was it something else? I don't remember. Let me just find this out, because I'm not sure. But coming back to the hot rails though, quick. Yeah, I mean, I've got no desire to have them in a guitar, but as usual, when you need your phone to do something, it just decides not to work. But like I said, I've got no real desire to have them in a guitar, but maybe in the future I'd like to maybe just dabble. But I don't think it'd be something I would ever kind of like really stick to like glue. Like I say, I always come back to single coil pickups. That's weird. Are you listening to me, phone? No. Oh, hang on. No. Oh dear. This is no. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it's a traditional. Let's just. Yes, it was. Yay! Yeah. 6 years ago. 6 years ago. Oh my god! This is amazing, crazy. Yeah, it was a 2010 Gibson Les Paul traditional. So if anybody knows what humbuckers are in that, can they let me know? Because I don't know why that guitar sounded amazing. It just did. It was just one of those Les Pauls where I was like, if I had the money, you'd be mine. And it was a cherry burst, and the cherry burst wasn't like tomato soup. It was just a lovely cherry burst. It was. I eventually sold that guitar to somebody in the shop, and I was just like, I hope you realise what an amazing guitar you've got there. But anyway, that was a gorgeous guitar, and that did sound amazing. But I'd say that sounded more like the Lemon Drop than the RTL. The RTL, like I say, is my that's my Les Paul sound. That's what I want my Les Pauls to sound like. So and I've used this. Obviously, I've got more hours on the Lemon Drop because I've had it longer, but I've used this so much, the RTL, and like I say, it is my go-to Les Paul. Recently, with Peter's passing, I've been going back to the Lemon Drop just because I'm drawn in that direction at this point in time because he's because of Peter's passing, sadly. But my favourite Les Paul by far that any I've ever tried is the RTL. I just adore this guitar so much. It's so cool, and it'll take some beating. It really will. Anyway, the way it plays, the way it feels, the way it sounds, just oh my gravy. Anyway, hot rail pickups, yes, love them. Don't really want them or need them. It's not really my kind of interest. Like if I want humbuckers, I'll go here. But I do remember I do like the sound of them, especially in the neck pickup, like hot rail, amazing. Instant Dave Murray, and it's wicked. There's nothing wrong with that. So I really like them, but like I say, I don't really go for humbuckers. They're not really my kind of thing. But they are great. I can't deny that hot rails are really cool. They're actually one of the only Seymour Duncan pickups I actually like. I'm not. A lot of the Seymour Duncan pickups I've tried, I just don't get along with. The SSL ones, I don't like the JB humbuckers. I don't particularly get on with. The 59 PAF, is it a PAF 59? I don't know. The Seymour Duncan, like basically the PAF copy. I quite like that, but it's still too woolly and warm for me. My friend Dan's got one in his Epiphone Les Paul, and it is a nice sounding pickup, but it's not for me. Like I say, I know what I like and I know what works, kind of thing. So yeah, it's not really for me. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to move on to question 3 now. So I hope it's such a question. People with a tube, have you tried hot rail pickups, and what do you think? Let us know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on hot rails? Okay, so I almost always want to say Hot Wheels. But it's not the toy we used to have as kids. Anyway, moving on. Question 3. Have you been asked to join a band now or in the past? Yeah, I mean, a few. Not many. Mainly I've just formed bands. You know what I mean? Or I've fallen into a band, if that makes any sense. I've never been really, formally asked to join a band. I've just kind of I've auditioned for bands and kind of got the job here and there. And obviously, through friend of a friend, this band needs a guitarist, would you be interested? Yeah, and I'll go and do it. But kind of it's never kind of but it's only it's not it's only local bands kind of thing. Because I initially wasn't in Dukes Deluder. We've got a new song coming out soon, by the way. In Dukes Deluder, I wasn't the original guitarist. Funny enough, my brother was the original guitarist, and he eventually decided he didn't want to do it anymore. And I had stood in for a gig. My brother couldn't do it, so they asked me if I would stand in, and I went down and played with them. And I was like, I want to be in this band. There was something about the music, and I was just drawn to immediately, and I was like, I love this, and I want to be in this band. And so I And it was really gutting because like my brother came back and he was able to do the next couple of gigs and I wasn't able to do them. And I was like, oh, I want to play with them. Anyway, eventually my brother decided he didn't want to do it anymore, so I jumped in like a whippet, and just loved it. Dukes the Luder is next to the Trio, my favourite band I've ever been in. Because I love the Trio, I love playing with John Joe, and and Dukes is just another one of those bands where I'm just like, I absolutely, I'm sure we've all been there at some point, like people who have been in bands where you're just like, I absolutely love this. Yeah, this feels perfect. Oh, this feels right, and Dukes felt like that. So so I'm kind of sad really that kind of like it's not. We are going to finish the second album, but that's about as far as it goes. We haven't got any... There's no plans to reform and do live work when we can, kind of thing. Me and Dan will keep playing together, but as far as Dukes the Luder goes, I'm pretty sure Dukes the Luder as a live functioning band is dead. And that really breaks my heart, to be perfectly honest, because I really love that band. And we all put so much into it, you know what I mean? This is why we decided to finish the second album, because we've got so many songs that, like, we want record and release, and we just feel like it'd be a total waste to just kind of like let them rot on a hard drive or just delete them full stop and kind of move away from them. It just feels wrong. So we're gonna finish the second album, release that. We're gonna release another song soon as a single called Shame, and I'm really loving this song. Shame is one of my favourite Dukes the Luder songs, next to a couple of others. Such an amazing thing. But have I been asked to join a band now or in the past? Yeah, a few. Well, kind of say I've never been formally asked, but kind of I've just joined bands. You know what I mean? I've been in a lot of bands, but like I say, there's only been a few that I've ever kind of gone, I love this so much. This is just like wicked. And Dukes and the Trio are just kind of like the main two, so to say. My first ever kind of like proper band, Gimbal, that I was in, like an American punk pop band that we were in. That was awesome to me as well, but it just kind of went totally wrong, due to certain issues and whatnot. Everyone just fell out, and it just went wrong. And but I love that one as well. But because of the way it went, I don't have much fondness for it anymore. I wish I did, but I have fondness for music and the time we had playing. But like I don't really have much fondness for kind of like the band as a thing, because it went so bad. You know what I mean? It left such a bitter taste in my mouth that kind of like, for the longest time, I just thought, I want to get it back together and do this and the other. And the more I thought about it, it's like, you just have to nostalgia. That's not really it's not a good enough reason to get a band back together. It's just because you want to rekindle something that's gone. You know what I mean? That's just silly. It doesn't work that way. You've got to be in it for the right reasons. And that just wasn't it. But, the bands I hold in high regard, like for me personally, are the Dukes and the Trio. I just love them. So and the Trio's been going since 2007, and I joined the Dukes about 4 years ago. And I say unfortunately, it doesn't matter at this point in time anyway, because we can't gig even if we were a fully functioning band, the Dukes. But such is life. But yeah, I have been I've been in a lot of bands and I've played around a lot and played with a lot of people and this and the other. So. But yeah, it's one band that I wish I could have been part of for every gig is the Broom Busters with my friend Charlie. That is the one band that I wish I could have been a full-time member of and not just kind of like, get up and jam with them when they come to town. That is one of the bands where I was like, I wish I lived in Birmingham and I wish I could just like go with them to every gig and just play with Charlie. Looking back now, hindsight's a horrible thing. It's brutal. But looking back now, if I knew now what I knew then, I would have moved to Birmingham in a split second. Having known where it all, where we are now, I would have done that. But like I say, hindsight is brutal. Is a brutal mistress, if you will. Definitely. But I am ridiculously honoured and glad and happy, and will be forever glad and happy that I got to play with him as much as I did, and have him as a friend and a hero and an influence on me, and yeah. But anyway, we're not going to go down that line because I'll end up blubbering or something. But yeah, so no, I hope that's the question. I'm going to move on to question 4 now. Question 4 is, what are your thoughts on the Dunlop Jimi Hendrix Crybaby Wah? Have you tried it, and is it better than the Vox Silvertop? I have tried it, yeah, and is it better than the Vox Silvertop? Not in a million years. Personally, I've tried a lot of stuff with Jimmy's name on it, and I haven't liked any of it. I tried the Octavio, hated it. I thought it was a big pile of crap. The wah wah pedal sounded like a crybaby. It didn't sound like a Jimmy Wah. You know, Jimmy's wah was modded anyway. All of Jimmy's stuff was modded. You know, everybody's stuff was modded. You know what I mean? You look back in the day, there wasn't many people who didn't have some kind of modification to their amp or their pedals or their guitars. Everyone modded everything. You know, Richie Blackmore, his Marshall Majors were modded to 450 watts, and then he ran a treble booster in it and all sorts of stuff with it to get his sound. You know, it was never just a Marshall. Richie Blackmore actually said in an interview when he went to the Marshall factory, because he needed something with more oomph than his Vox AC30, and he went to the Marshall factory because he heard about Marshall, and he plugged into a Marshall Major, and he hated it. He said it was crap. He said it was fizzy and it just horrible sound. And he asked him, he says, can you take this? Can you do this and that and the other? And they kept modding it and modding it and modding it. And then he eventually, when he got it kind of how he wanted Marshall to have it, he sent it to somebody else who then modded it even more, say to 450 watt. And basically kind of like, stuck tons of stuff in it. And then he used a treble booster. Then there was the old tape echo thing he used as well, which would help his tone and stuff like that and get more gain out of it. And none of it was stock, Same with Jimi Hendrix's stuff, his Marshalls, everybody said, his road crew said his Marshalls weren't stock, his guitars were always being tinkered with, his pedals weren't stock because Roger Mayer constantly messed around with them. He was constantly after something, Jimmy was, that unfortunately I don't think existed at that point in time. It exists now, I'm sure of it, but at that point in time, it didn't exist because what I've read as well is, I've heard Seymour Duncan say this, and I've heard Jimmy's kind of like guitar tech, if you will, like, the roadie tech, and also Jerry Stickles, his road manager, said this. Jimmy's fuzz faces were not fuzz faces. He didn't actually like the arbiter fuzz face. He found it too harsh. So what Jimmy did, and what Roger Mayer did, is they took the fuzz face circuitry out, and they put Roger Mayer's in because it was cheaper than trying to create a different enclosure. And if you listen to Jimmy's fuzz tone, it is unlike any arbiter fuzz tone. If you listen to kind of Eric Johnson's fuzz tone does not sound like Jimi Hendrix. Joe Bonamassa's fuzz tone did not sound like Jimi Hendrix. I used to have a fuzz face, the Dunlop one, and it sounded nothing like Jimi Hendrix. And there's also other Jimi Hendrix fuzz that I've tried, and I'm like, that sounds nothing like Jimmy's tone, no. And it wasn't until reading these articles and stuff like that and finding what people who were around him said, and people like Roger Mayer and Seymour Duncan and people like that said about Jimmy's setup, it was because none of this stuff was stock. It was all tinkered with. So I'm always very dubious when they put Jimmy's name on something, because I'm just a bit like, how true to life is that? Because I've tried the Octavio, I've tried some Jimi Hendrix's fuzz pedal kind of names. Like in all fairness, my rule of thumb now is if it's got Jimmy's name on it, don't try it. That's my rule of thumb. It's not because I'm anti Jimi Hendrix stuff. I'm just anti it because I don't believe it's a true representation of what Jimmy's sound actually was. When I play these things, like I said, I've tried the Dunlop Crybaby Wah, the Jimi Hendrix one. I've tried the fuzzes, and I've tried the Octavio, and I've tried these other Jimmy pedals, and I'm just like, that's not Jimmy's sound. That's not his sound. It sounds too harsh. It's too woolly. It doesn't have the right effect. It doesn't respond right. And it's just like meh. It just doesn't work. So I'm not interested in anything like that. And like I say, I found the Vox Silvertop. I'm pointing because it's over there. Sorry, everyone. I always point at things off camera, don't I? But I found the actual, just like, the stock Vox Silvertop to be closer than the Jimi Hendrix it just sounds like a crybaby. It doesn't sound like Jimmy's. Jimmy's wah wah pedal had a really unique voice to it. And in all fairness, the Vox Silvertop doesn't really get to what Jimmy's wah pedal was. Again, because it was tweaked by Roger Mayer, it's you're never going to be able to buy a pedal unless it was Jimmy's that sounds the same. It's why when you listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan, when Stevie stands on his wah pedal, you're like, that sounds like Jimi Hendrix. It's because it was. Stevie's wah pedal was Jimi Hendrix's wah wah pedal. It was his Vox wah wah pedal. I think Jimmy Vaughan got it, and then obviously gave it to Stevie, or Stevie bought it or whatnot, and then Stevie obviously used it, being a Jimmy fan. And that's why when you hear Stevie's wah wah sound, it's like unlike anybody else's. It's because it's Jimmy's wah pedal that's been modded and tweaked. It's like it's like during the 70s and the 80s. So many people had modifications done to their amps and their guitars. Very rarely was people using stuff that was stock. There was always some modifications somewhere in their setup. It was very, very rare that they didn't have something going on somewhere. Even Rory Gallagher. He would always use a treble booster. It was never guitar into an amp. There was always some other element there. Richie Blackmore was the same. There's not many guitarists I can think of that would go straight into amplifiers. Peter Green, but then Peter had reverb, and also I've seen him with a wah wah pedal. Who else are we thinking of? Richie Blackmore definitely wasn't. Richie Blackmore had, they're all modded. Eric Clapton, I suppose, but Eric had a wah wah, which again modifies tone, because it non-true bypass darkens things down, makes things warmer. But a lot of people had other things in the way. It was never kind of like straight into the amp really. Jimmy wasn't. I say Jimmy's stuff was modded. It was always going to be modded because of the way Jimmy's brain worked. He was always striving for something. And I remember reading an interview with Roger Mayer when he was saying something like he found the fuzz face to be too harsh, and he wanted it to be more like an overdrive. And if you watch and if you listen to Woodstock's a great example of this. When Jimmy sticks on his fuzz face, he's got a red one at that time. And again, it's not a fuzz face. When he sticks it on, it is more a distortion tone than a fuzz tone. It's got more in common with overdrive and distortion than it has fuzz. But if you go back in time to 1960, 66, 67, when Jimmy first kind of came on the scene, when he was using the Arbiter fuzz face for what it was, there's some amazing footage of him playing some bits here and there. You can hear how it's quite harsh, and then you can hear how in kind of through 67 it warms up as they're tweaking, and in 68 it gets even warmer than that, and then obviously 69 and Woodstock, they're kind of starting to develop another thing. And then by the end of his career, Jimmy's guitar tone is really unique. If you listen to like the Atlanta Pop Festival or the Isle of Wight Festival, his guitar tone is really different at that point in time. And there is a more of a fuzzy element to his guitar tone then than there is at Woodstock, but it's still more overdrivey than it is kind of like, fuzz. Fuzz is a very kind of distinctive sound, and it's funny how it's not, I don't really associate it as much with Jimmy's tone as maybe I should. I always hear it more as an overdrive. It's like distortion. It's always warmer, but it's not woolly like a fuzz. It's got more clarity. When Jimmy hits like kind of chords and solos, and especially if he goes to his neck pickup on his strats, they're a lot warmer. And Jimmy would tweak his strats as well. Wicked interview with Simon Duncan. I think it's on YouTube somewhere. Simon Duncan made him some pickups, and he got backstage to give Jimmy these pickups, and he went into the dressing room, and Jimmy had this Stratocaster he was using apart, messing with it, tweaking things. And Simon Duncan said, "I've got these pickups for you." And he's like, "Oh, well, put them in." And he put them in that guitar, and he used them that night. Jimmy was always always searching for something, which is why there's so many kind of different incantations of his sound. So, and that's another reason why I have a bit of a beef with this whole Jimi Hendrix line of pedals. It's like, oh, it sounds like Jimi Hendrix. No, it doesn't. To me, anyway, in my personal opinion, I think the Octavio was terrible. I don't think the Crybaby is a good representation of Jimmy's Wah sound at all. It doesn't sound right. Jimmy's Wah is really throaty, and the Jimi Wah isn't throaty. The closest thing you can get to Jimmy's pedal without actually knowing how it was modded is the Vox Silvertop. And, you know, I just find it's so close. It's got the right sweep, it's got the right response. Doesn't quite have the throatiness of Jimmy's, but again, that's to be expected because it wasn't stock. But it is close. It is really close. But yeah. Anyway, I think I've waffled on about that enough. I could talk about that all day. So be careful, people of the tube, for what you ask for. You may get it. You might get a Dave waffle, and I shouldn't have sat like that because I've got a ruined knee on my left leg, and that's silly now because that's going to hurt all day. I'm clever. Anyway, so yeah, what are my thoughts on that? Is it better than the Silvertop? No, the Silvertop rules the day. If you want Jimi Hendrix Wah, go for the Silvertop and do the Jimi Hendrix mod and take the feet off. I'm going to do a video actually for my. I think I've already done it actually. Have I already done it? I don't remember. But I'm gonna do a couple of videos on that soon. But if I haven't already done them, if I've already done them, I apologise. But in which case, I won't be doing them. He's switched on sometimes, I tell you. Okay, so another part of question 4 is there a difference between a coily cable and a straight one? Yes, coily cables have basically, I can't remember if it's lower or higher impedance. I think it's lower impedance. I can't remember. Was it lower that cuts it? I don't know. But coily cables, because if you straighten a coily cable out, it's ridiculously long. But because it goes round and around and around and around, the signal flow is basically slowed. It's almost like if you imagine a river, and the river's going from this point to this point, and it's going downhill, it's going to flow really fast. You know, so the water at this end is going to get to that end really quick because it's going downhill. But now if you take that river and you kind of like do this with it, you S it, so it goes like this all the way down the hill. It's going to take longer for the water from this top end to get to the bottom of the hill. And that's the same thing that happens with a coily cable. So if you have a straight lead and it goes straight from the amp to your guitar, the signal is going to get there really quick because it's just a straight line. Whereas with a coily cable, it goes and it takes its time. And what that does is it rolls off high end. So it gives you a darker sound. It's why people like Jimi Hendrix use coily cables, because he preferred the sound of it to a straight one. Which is why you see them kind of like, you know, like extremely dangerously like hanging down from his Marshalls. You know, just a massive trip hazard, which is brilliant. But you know, just kind of like roughly taped onto the floor. But yeah, coily cables. I think I'm pretty sure it's called low impedance. I don't know. I could be totally wrong in that one. I don't really know. I'm not very good with technical lingo. But yeah, basically like it'll just roll off high end and give you a warmer sound, whereas a straight cable, a shorter one, will give you a brighter sound. It's why I like really long guitar leads. You know, I don't like short guitar leads really because I find them too bright. Is it down here? Yes, one sec. So this guitar lead, which I use quite a lot of the time, is fairly short, to be honest with you. I mean, if I can, you know, as usual, you can't straighten a lead out just because that, you know, you put them away nice, you treat them with respect, and then you still get knots and weirdness in them. But just to give you an idea, this lead is there's lens Nor marks. This lead is fairly long, you know, if I just kind of give you an idea. But that's about as short as lead as I'm ever going to use. And in all fairness, I don't particularly like the sound of this lead too much compared to another one. I always prefer 20 or 30 kind of foot or even longer leads. I don't really like, I think that's like I don't know what that would be. Or meter is it? I don't know. I don't remember. I just like ridiculously long guitar leads. Not stupidly long, because I think it gets too dark and the signal degrades a bit too much. But I do like long guitar leads because it gives you signal degradation, which I really like, because I don't like short leads and that kind of like, that crystal kind of like clean brightness you get from having a short lead into an amp. I just don't like it. It's why I like non-true bypass wah pedals and non-true bypass in general, because it cuts the harsh and gives you more bass and warmth. And I like bass and warmth. I like big guitar tones that still have cut, but I like cut in mid-range, not in treble. That's why I never use treble. If I wanted to cut, I'll just boost the mids. I will never boost treble unless I really, depending on the amp. There are certain amps where I do that. But again, that's all amp kind of specific, if you will. But coily leads have that ability to kind of darken your tone down. They will give you a darker sound because there's more resistance basically in that lead, because it is technically longer than it appears, and it's really cool. I really like coily cables, and again I love them because again Jimi Hendrix been my hero. Seeing Jimmy with the coily cables I think looks so cool, but I don't really. I've only got one. I remember I shelled out loads of money for a Fender white coily cable. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. It looks like Jimi Hendrix's white one from Woodstock. And was it white one at Woodstock, or was it somewhere else I'm thinking of? I'm pretty sure it's Woodstock. Could be totally wrong. I don't know. But I remember kind of shelling out this money for this. It was like 25 quid for this coily cable. And it broke in 2 weeks, and I was absolutely gutted. And I went and bought a Stag coily cable. And I've still got it. It still works. And that must have been about 2000 and... When would that have been? 2006 that would have been. I bought that lead in 2006 and it still goes. The only thing I've done to it is I've added an angled jack on it instead, because initially it was just like a jack like that, but I wanted it to kind of I wanted it angled, so because it was always going to be the end lead coming from the last pedal into my guitar, so I wanted it to angle out, so when I put it into a pedal board I didn't have to worry about the kind of the extra length. So all I did was basically resolder an angled jack onto it, and stupidly, because I'm clever, I cut it. I didn't desolder it. I just thought, I'll just cut it, so now one end's shorter than the other. Boy, he's a clever boy. But personally, I really love coily cables again, because like I say, it just creates that kind of like resistance, so to say, and it just makes things darker and makes me happy. So yeah, there is a difference. But if you get a really long straight lead, it'll do the same kind of thing as a coily cable. So just bear that in mind. But again, I do like longer leads. I always use longer leads, like overly long, like ridiculously kind of like. But I like what it does to the sound. I don't like I say, that is the shortest lead I will ever use. And even then, I'm not a big fan of that. It's still a bit too bright. I've noticed when I'm going straight into amps with it, I'm like, nah, it's not quite the sound I want. So I am actually going to start using a longer lead than that one actually instead. But yeah, so be that for what it may. So anyway, I hope that made sense. So quickly, this isn't really a question, but it's something I wanted to address really quick, and I've just realised I'm going to run out of time if I'm not careful. Somebody asked about the MG fan noise in a question, and I've spoke about this before in quite a lot of time, so I quickly wanted to bring it up. Somebody said, the fan noise bothers me. You know, what you do is you just turn the amp on, let it buzz like a dying cow for a while, and it'll eventually stop. You know, that noise that the MG does. Eventually that will stop. Just let the amp go through that initial startup thing. You know, you just let it turn on, because that's what I do with my MGs with that noise, is I just turn them on and just let them whir away, and eventually that whirring, that dead cow noise, just stops. So yeah, that's all that is. It's just a fault with the amp, but it's not really, it's just a fault with the fan, not the amp, should I say. But just turn it on, let it whir away for about 2 minutes, and it'll eventually stop, and you'll be all jobs are good. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this Q&A. And we really have to rush because I'm going to run out of time, and I'm going to be like, zip, and it will just cut out like the end of Sopranos. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope I've answered your questions okay. I know there was a lot of waffle, but I hope there was something in there. If you want to submit a question for Q&A Wednesday, everybody, description box below has an email link. And yeah, I will see you again on Friday for another vid. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and goodbye now. Thank you very much for watching.